Giller Prize winner, Esi Edugyan, who is here from Victoria, BC, and I understand got up very early to come here. Thank you. This event is sponsored by the speaker series of the English department at the University of Waterloo. And so we should thank Fraser Easton for opening his pockets for this event. Thank you. It is also supported by the Faculty of Arts, and so thank you, the Faculty of Arts. And of course, we should thank St. Jerome's University, and the Dean, Jim Frank, is actually here. Thank you for this wonderful venue. Thank you to Thomas Allen and Catherine Whiteside, I think, is here. Thank you for making this also possible from the publishing house, Thomas Allen. So last spring at some point, word got around that this incredible book was coming out by Esi Edugyan, and it hadn't even come out yet. And people said, read this, right? And so we actually managed to get a copy of this text. And then we started to agitate among our colleagues and say, we have to get this author here. And it all worked out in the end, but of course, at that point, she hadn't won any prizes yet. And so we thought, yeah, we have a real chance to get her here. And then, of course, she got shortlisted, and she got, as you know, she got first longlisted. My book still says longlisted for the Man Booker Award. And now I just saw Jim's copy, and it says actually shortlisted for that award and that award. And then, of course, she was shortlisted for the Rogers Writers Trust Prize, and then the Giller, and then the GG. And I just said to our colleague, you know what, we're not going to get her. She's getting so famous, forget it. She's not even going to think about coming to Waterloo. And then, of course, she won the Giller Prize, And at that point, we almost gave up. But, of course, Esi was as good as her word, and she actually came. And so this is very, very wonderful. Before she published the book that she's going to read from today, she had a first novel out, which was also a very successful novel. It was called The Second Life of Samuel Time. And it was a prairie novel. It was it is a fabulous prairie novel. And of course, I invite you all to go and read that next. And I remember there were such fabulous lines in it, for instance, like, one does not ask a fool the way to Accra when one has a map in her pocket. And, and I thought, that's not a typical prairie novel, but good that these things are happening. And I thought, that is a wisdom for all times. I will remember that. So that was the Second Life of Samuel Tyne. But tonight she's going to read for us from a book that is called Half-Blood Blues. And Half-Blood Blues, it's a fabulous book for those who have read it. But of course, it's about jazz. And it's about Berlin, and it's about Paris, and some other little cities, Hamburg and things like that. But it's also, of course, about the Third Reich and Nazis. It's about race. It's about, well, loyalties and betrayals and all of those things that make a fabulous book. And I see some of you nodding, so I think I got it roughly right. But of course, Esi will tell us in more detail what it is all about. I should say, first of all, she has agreed to do a Q&A with us. So that means you can actually ask her questions after the reading. So she will read for maybe 15, 20 minutes or so. And I believe that is the microphone that we should be using. So if after the reading you want to ask a question, this would be the place. Oh, there's a second one over there. Okay, so we have two microphones, okay? So where you can ask questions afterwards directly. And she has also agreed to sign books afterwards. So in the lobby, you can, of course, buy the books if you haven't done so. In that case, of course, I should look at you very sternly. But so she will also sign books there. And so now, I think without further ado, please join me in welcoming Esi Edugyan all the way from Victoria, British Columbia.
Thank you, Wim, for that introduction. That was really lovely. And thank you all for coming tonight. I'm thrilled to be here in Waterloo. It's not sunny Waterloo, but it's yeah, it looks like a good town. and I've never been here before. So actually afterwards, if anybody has any recommendations of places that I absolutely must see before leaving tomorrow, do come up and let me know. So I'm reading from Half-Blood Blues tonight. And just to tell you a little bit about the plot, I'll probably start from reading from the beginning of the book, but just to give you a general idea of what it's about. It's a novel that's set in, we have two intertwining plot lines, both dealing with the same characters. And the first one is set in, it's 1939 and 1940, and we're in Berlin and in Paris. And, but it starts off in Berlin, and we're following basically the travails of a German and American jazz band. So, you know, half the players are German and half are from the States. And, you know, it's, we've obviously had the rise of the Third Reich, and they have been prohibited from playing. And so they're just trying to figure out exactly what it is they should be doing with themselves, just because, you know, essentially they're just, you know, they're playing for each other. And that storyline centers around a young trumpeter called Hieronymus Falk, who's very young. He's, you know, 19 years old, and he is a trumpet prodigy. And the whole band kind of centers around him. He's the focal point. He's their you know, little genius. And the story is told through the lens of Sydney, who, you know, has a very fraught relationship with Hieronymus, who's called Hero, and also the kid in the book. But he, you know, there's a lot of sort of adoration and admiration for him, while at the same time, you know, there's quite a bit of jealousy. Him being a bassist, and, you know, not a terrific musician, just kind of a, you know, an average player. And the second plot line takes place in 1992, and it opens in Baltimore, and you have two of the players from this old jazz band from the 30s who are, you know, they've returned to America, living in, you know, in Baltimore in Fells Point. I don't know if any of you have been to Baltimore, but Fells Point is a very sort of, you know, active area near the water. And essentially, what's happened is Hieronymus Falk, his recordings have been discovered, and he is, you know, he died quite a while ago under, you know, circumstances that were sort of very mysterious. And so these two jazz men discovered that, you know, maybe there's something more to his fate than they know, and so they're invited to partake in a documentary, which is happening in you know, in downtown, or in you know, near the Alexanderplatz area of Berlin, and to go back and to view this documentary that they've agreed to be in, which is about Falk, and also to take part in a Q&A about Falk's life. And, you know, when they return to Berlin, they discover that, you know, there's much that they didn't know about their friend, and much still to discover. So I will just start from the top. Paris, 1940. Chip told us not to go out. Said, "Don't you boys tempt the devil." But it been one brawl of a night, I tell you. All of us still reeling from the rot. Rot was cheap, see, the drink of French peasants. But it stayed like nails in your gut. Didn't even look right, all mossy and black in the bottle, like drinking swamp water. See, we lay exhausted in the flat, sheets nailed over the windows. The sunrise so fierce it seeped through the gaps, dropped like cloth on our skin. A couple hours before, we was playing in some back alley studio, trying to cut a record. A grim little room, more like a closet of ghosts than any joint for music. The cracked heaters lisping steam, empty bottles rolling all over the warped floor. Our cigarettes glowed like small holes in the dark, and that's how I known we wasn't buzzing. Hero smoke not moving or nothing. The cig just sitting there in his mouth like he couldn't hear his way clear. Everyone pacing about, listening between takes to the scrabble of rats in the walls. Restless as hell. Could be we wasn't so rotten, but I at least felt off. Too nervous, too crazed, too busy watching the door. Forget the rot. Forget the studio's seclusion. Nothing tore me out myself. Take after take, I play sweating to the end of it, only to have Hero scratch the damn disc, tossing it in the trash. Just a damn braid of mistakes, Hero kept muttering. A damn braid of mistakes. We sound like royalty. After the mob got done with him, said Chip. Coleman and I ain't said nothing, our heads hanging tiredly. But Hero, wiping his horn with a blacked-up handkerchief, he turned and gave Chip a look of pure spite. Yeah, but hell, even at our worst, we genius. Did that ever stun me, him saying this? For weeks the kid been going on and on about how dreadful we sound. He kept snatching up the discs and scratching the lacquer with a pocket knife, wrecking them, yelling how there wasn't nothing there. But there was something, some seed of twisted beauty. I didn't mean to, but somehow, when the kid turned his back, I was sliding off my vest, taking the last disc, still delicate, the groove still new, and folding the fabric around it. I glanced around, nervous, then tucked it into my bass case. The others was packing up their axes. Where's that last record at? Said Hero, frowning. He peered at the trash bin, at the damaged discs all in there. It's in there, Buck, I said. You didn't want it, did you? He gave me a sour look. Ain't no damn point. We ain't never gonna get this right. What you saying, kid? Said Chip, slurring his words. You saying we should give it up? The kid just shrugged. We lined up the empty bottles along the wall, locked up real quiet, gone our separate routes back to Delilah's flat. Curfew was on, and Paris was grim, all clotted shadows and stale air. I made my quiet way along the alleys, dreading the sound of footsteps, till we met up again at the flat. Everyone but Coleman, of course. Coleman, who was staying with his lady. We collapsed onto dirty couches under blackout curtains. I'd set my axe against the wall, and it was like I could feel the damn disc just sitting in there, still warm. I felt its presence so intensely, it seemed strange the others ain't sensed it too. Its wax holding all that heat like an altar candle. It was the four of us living there. Delilah, Hieronymus, Chip, and me. A couple months before, we'd spent the day nailing black sheets across the flat's windows, but damn if that grim sun didn't flood through anyhow. The rooms felt too stale to sober up him. We needed to sweat it out in the fresh air, get our heads about us. Ain't been no breeze in weeks. Hero was draped in his chair, his scrawny legs all dangling, when all of a sudden he turned to me, his face dark and smooth as an eggplant. Christ, I feel green. My guts are pure gravy, man. Amen, I said. Man, I got to get me some milk. Amen, I said again. We talked like mongrels, see? Half German, half Baltimore bar slang. Just a few scraps of French between us. Only real language I spoke aside from English was Hochdeutsch. But once I started messing up the words, I couldn't straighten nothing out again. Besides, I known Hero preferred it this way. Kid hailed from the Rhineland, sure, but he got old Baltimore in the blood, or talked like he did. He was still young that way, mimicking. Something had changed in him lately, though. He ain't hardly et nothing since the Boots descended on the city. The Boots being the Nazis. He ain't hardly et anything since the Boots descended on the city, been laid up feverish and slack for days on end. And when he come to, there was this new darkness in him I ain't never seen before. I gave my old axe a quick glance, thinking of the record tucked away in there. It wasn't guilt I felt. Well, not that exactly. Hero sort of half rolled onto the patchy rug. "Aw, Sid," he groaned. "I need milk." "In the cupboard, I reckon." "We got milk? Chip?" But Chip, he just opened one brown eye like a man half drowned. His face dark as cinder in this light. Hero coughed. "I'm trying to clean my stomach, not rough it up." His left eye twitched all high up in the lid, the way you sometimes see the heart of a thin woman beating through her blouse. "It's milk I need, brother. Cream. That powdered stuff will rip right through you, like you shit in sand, like you a damn hourglass." "Aw, it ain't that bad," I said. "Ain't nothing open at this hour anyway, kid. You know that. Except maybe the coup. But that's too damn far." We lay on in silence a minute. I tossed my arm up over my mouth, and man, if my skin didn't stink of rancid vinegar. That was the rot. It did that to you. In the bad light, I could just make out the room's last few chairs huddled by the fireplace. They looked absurd, like a flock of geese hiding from the hatchet. 'Cause they was the last of it, see. This been a grand old flat once, to go by Lila's stories. All Louis XIV chairs, Murano chandeliers, Aubusson tapestries, ceilings high as a damn train station. But the Count who lent Delilah the place, he'd unearned her to sell what she could come in. Seemed less bleak to him. And now, the flat being so empty, you felt only its depths, like you stranded at sea. Whole place nothing but darkness. Across the room, Chip started snoring, faint-like. I glanced over at Hero, now all knotted up in his chair. "Kid," I said thickly. "Hey, kid." I put a hand to my head. "You ain't serious about giving up on the record. We close, Buck. You know that." Hero opened his mouth, belched. "Oh, good morning right back at you," I said. He didn't seem to have heard me. I watched him heave himself up on his feet, the chair moaning like an old mule. Then he sort of staggered on over to the door. At least I reckon that was his idea. Looked more like he heading for the fireplace, stumbling all about. His shoulder smacked a wall. Then he was on the floor, on all fours. "What you doing?" I said. "Hero, what you doing, kid?" "What you mean, what am I doing? You ain't never seen a man put on his shoes before? Well, stick around, 'cause it's about to get real exciting. I'm going to put my damn coat on next." Hero was wrestling his old houndstooth coat. He'd gone all twisted in the sleeves. He still ain't stood up. I need me some daylight right by now. I pulled on my fob, stared at my watch till it made damn sense. "This ain't no kind of hour, kid. You ain't yourself." He ain't said nothing. Least just wait till Lila wake up. She take you." "I ain't waiting till my foot wake up. Never mind Lila." "You got to at least tell her what you doing." "I ain't got to do naught." A soft moan drifted over from the window, and then Chip lifted up onto one dark elbow, like he posing for his sculpture. His eyes looking all glassy, the lids flickering like moths. Then his head sunk right back on his shoulders, so that, throat exposed, it like he talking to the ceiling. "Don't you damn well go out," he told that ceiling. "Lie yourself down, get some sleep. I mean it." "You tell it, Buck," said Hero, grinning. "You stick it to that ceiling." "Put that old crack plaster in its place," I said. But Chip, he fallen back and was snoring along already. "Go on into Lila's room and wake her," I said to Hero. Hero's thin face stared me down from the doorway. "What kind of life you living? You can't go into the street for a cup of milk. You got to have a nanny." He stood under the hat rack, leaning like a brisk wind done come up. "Hell, Sid, just what you expect Lila to do, you get in real trouble, huh? She got a special lipstick I don't know about? It shoot bullets? You being a damn fool, Buck." Pausing, I glanced away. "You know you don't got any damn papers." What you gonna do you get stopped? He shrugged. I just going down the bugs. It ain't far. He yanked open the door and slid out onto the landing, swaying in the half-dark. Staring into the shadows there, I felt sort of uneasy. Don't know why. Well, the bug was our name for the tobacconists a few blocks away. It wasn't far. All right, I muttered. Hold up, I'm coming. He slapped one slender hand on the doorknob, like it alone would hold him up. I thought, this kid gonna be the death of you, Sid. The kid grimaced. You waiting for a mailed invitation? Let's ankle. I stumbled up, fumbling for my other shoe. There won't be no trouble anyhow, he added. It be fine. Ain't no one go down the bugs at this hour. Ah, he's so sure, I said. Listen to how sure he is. Hero smiled. Oh, I'm living a charmed life, Sid. You just stick close. But by then we were slipping down those wide marble stairs in the dark and pushing out into the gray street. We usually went all of nowhere in the daytime. Never without Delilah, never the same route twice, and not ever into Rue des Saussets or Avenue Foch. But Hero, he grown reckless as the occupation deepened. He was a Mischling, a half-breed, but so dark no soul ever liked to guess his mama a white Rhinelander. Hell, his skin glistened like pure oil. But he German-born, sure. And if his face wasn't of the fatherland, well, just about everything else about him rooted him there right good. Add to this the fact that he didn't have no identity papers right now. Let's just say this wasn't no cakewalk for him. Me? I was American, and so light-skinned folks often took me for white. Son of 2 Baltimore quadroons, I come out straight-haired, green-eyed, a right little Spaniard. In Baltimore, this giving me a softer ride than some. I'd be lying if I said it ain't back in Berlin, too. When we've gone out together in that city, anyone approaching us always comes straight to me. When Herod cut in with his native German, well, the gent would damn near die of surprise. Most ain't liked it, though. Savage, talking like he's civilized. You'd see that old glint in their eye, like a knife, turning. We fled to Paris to outrun all of that. But we known Lila's gutted flat wouldn't fend off the chaos forever. Ain't no man can outrun his fate. Sometimes, when I looked out through the curtains, staring onto the emptiness of Rue de Varennes, I'd see our old Berlin. I'd see that night when all the glass on our street shattered. We'd been in Ernst's flat on Fasenenstrasse, messing it up. And when we drifted over to the curtains, it was like looking down on a carnival. Crowds in the firelight, broken bottles. We gone down after a minute, and it was like walking a gravel path, all them shards crunching at each step. The synagogue up the block was on fire. We watched firemen standing with their backs to the flames, spraying water on all the other buildings to keep the fire from spreading. See. I remember the crowd been real quiet. Firelight was shining on the wet streets, the hose water running into the drains. Here and there, I seen teeth glowing like opals on the black cobblestones. Thank you very much.